Microdosing psychedelics like LSD and magic mushrooms has become a popular trend, especially for those looking to boost their mental health. But the big question is, does it actually work, or is it just a placebo effect? Let us break it down for you. Microdosing has become increasingly popular these days, with everyone from tech executives to artists swearing by its benefits. Microdosing has become so popular that it's now a multi-billion-dollar industry. The idea is simple. You take tiny amounts of psychedelics like magic mushrooms or LSD and enjoy their supposed benefits without the full-blown trip. About 5 years ago, a person struggling with persistent depression decided to try microdosing psychedelics. With a family history of mental health issues and having been prescribed Prozac during childhood, they were hesitant to return to traditional medicine as an adult. He soon came across research from Johns Hopkins University suggesting that psilocybin, the active ingredient in magic mushrooms, could help alleviate anxiety and depression even in cancer patients. Inspired by these findings and stories of Silicon Valley influencers who claimed microdosing boosted their energy, he decided to experiment by taking a tiny amount of mushrooms, just a small nibble about half an inch, a few times a week to see if it might improve their mood. Almost immediately, there was a noticeable change. He felt an uplift in morale, a bit more happiness and energy, and started enjoying daily activities more than before. So what is microdosing and how does it work? Let's try and analyze this right here. Microdosing typically involves taking just 5 to 10% of a full psychedelic dose, which is supposed to give you some mental health benefits without the hallucinations. Let's understand this with an example. Suppose instead of ingesting 2,000 milligrams of magic mushroom, you might take just 100 to 200 milligrams. You typically do this every few days to supposedly reap benefits like increased creativity, productivity, focus, better mood, and overall well-being, all without experiencing intense hallucinations. And how does the body take it? The magic behind magic mushrooms is psilocybin, which is converted to psilocin in the body. Psilocin crosses the blood-brain barrier, affecting brain function in ways that lead to hallucinations, heightened senses, and emotional sensitivity. This happens because psilocin is chemically similar to serotonin, a neurotransmitter in the brain, allowing it to bind to serotonin receptors. It can also cross cell membranes and bind to specific proteins, which may cause changes in how the brain communicates, potentially leading to new neural connections. People who microdose claim it can make them feel more creative, improve their mood, and make life feel brighter, kind of like turning up the contrast on a TV screen. However, not everyone measures their doses carefully. About 2/3 of people who microdose just take enough to start feeling some effects, which can last for 4 to 6 hours. This can require a bit of trial and error, especially with mushrooms, since their psilocybin levels can vary. But did you know that full doses of drugs have been scientifically proven to yield results? Yes, there's some promising research into the mental health benefits of full doses of psychedelics. For example, high doses of psilocybin may help treat depression as effectively as some antidepressants. These full doses may help the brain form new connections, a process known as neuroplasticity. There's even some evidence that microdoses might have similar effects, but the research is still in the early stages. What do the scientists have to say about these positive outcomes of microdosing? Many scientists who started studying the effects of full doses are now exploring whether microdosing could offer similar benefits. However, they haven't reached a consensus yet. Most of the early studies have been based on anecdotal reports from users who felt improvements in mood, attention, and creativity. Lab studies have shown similar results, but these studies are small and lack comparison with a placebo. A couple of large placebo-controlled studies published last year suggest that the benefits people experience from microdosing might actually be due to the placebo effect. In these studies, participants used their own drugs, but researchers gave them either active doses or a placebo without letting them know which they had received. By the end of the trials, almost everyone reported feeling better regardless of whether they had taken the real thing or a placebo. But is microdosing really worth the hype, or could it be one of the biggest scams of the 21st century? Some scientists, like David Arezzo from Imperial College London, pointed out that people tend to feel better when they believe they're getting a helpful treatment. And in the studies, it didn't seem to matter if participants took a placebo or the actual drug. If they thought they were microdosing, they felt an improvement. A third placebo-controlled trial by the University of Chicago attempted to avoid the issue of expectation by not telling participants what they were taking or the study's purpose. Even then, there was no noticeable difference between the groups given LSD or those given a placebo. So yes, despite the hype, new scientific studies are raising doubts about whether microdosing actually works. Now let us look at some of the major problems behind microdosing. Firstly, the claims about microdosing are incredibly broad and hard to study scientifically. Advocates of microdosing say it can make you more creative, more productive, improve your sex life, and generally help you enjoy life more. But drugs don't usually work that way. Their effects are usually more specific. Recent studies have tried to investigate the effects of microdosing in more rigorous ways. For example, in one study, participants aged 18 to 35 were given 4 LSD microdoses at different concentrations, while others were given a placebo. They didn't know which group they were in. After taking the doses, they filled out questionnaires and completed cognitive and behavioral tests. Surprisingly, there were no significant differences between those who took the LSD microdoses and those who took the placebo. Harriet DeWitt, a professor of psychiatry and behavioral neuroscience at the University of Chicago, believes that microdosing isn't purely a placebo. The fact that there are measurable changes in brain function suggests that the drugs are having some effect even at lower doses. However, the placebo-controlled studies haven't shown a clear therapeutic benefit so far, which leaves some scientists skeptical. The debate around microdosing gets even messier because it's tough to rule out the placebo effect when studying psychoactive substances. In Dr. Arezzo's study, most participants are able to tell whether they get a microdose or a placebo, which makes it hard to keep the trials truly blind. Because of these issues, some researchers are thinking about ditching microdosing studies altogether and going back to looking at the effects of larger doses of psychedelics. Dr. Van Elk and Dr. Arezzo are both considering wrapping up their microdosing research for good. Only time and more studies will tell if it's worth all the hype or just another placebo-driven trend. But for now, microdosing is still booming in popularity and people are excited about its potential even if the science isn't fully there yet. We'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out. So what are your thoughts about microdosing? Is it a scam or does it really work? Let us know in the comments down below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more.